The game plan for today's show, very straight ahead. It's a review of the new GoldenEar T66. It's the debut model of the T-Series line. Now, the Triton line, the original lineup, is continuing, but the T66 feels like a fresh start. Setting the T66 up and getting the best out of them was really easy. I just moved them around for about a half an hour, and there it was. They were locked in, and that rarely happens that I could get the best out of a speaker that quickly. Now, it's a three-way speaker, and the tweeter, it's their folded ribbon tweeter, their reference folded ribbon tweeter, which I've heard before on their stand mount speaker, the BRX. And when I reviewed the BRX a couple of years ago, I was knocked out by that tweeter. And this speaker, the T66, feels like, well, like a grown-up BRX, because it continues on down. It's a full-size speaker. It's 49 inches tall, but only 6 inches wide. So it does kind of dominate and take over the room. Anyway, so we go from the tweeter to the mid-woofers. There's two 4.5-inch mid-woofers. And they have cast baskets, and their response goes down really low to 128 hertz. And then below them, right there on the front baffle, are a pair of active subwoofers, 5 by 9-inch subwoofers. And those are being driven by a DSP-controlled 500-watt Class D amplifier. But wait, there's more. Because on the sides of the speaker, on both sides, passive planar drivers that are pretty big. They're 8 by 12 inches. So they augment the sound of the active subwoofers. So this speaker, they claim it goes down to 30 hertz, and I was definitely getting 30 hertz. Very clean, very smooth bass, like I said, with minimal setup and fussing around by me. Now, I don't want to forget to mention this, that if you look on the back side of the speaker, you see a nice set, high quality set of binding posts. But you also see an RCA input, which is for the 0.1 channel input if you use the speaker in a home theater situation. But for 2 channel, you're not going to use the RCA input, but it's there. And just above that RCA input is a knob. It has very nice knob feel, and that controls the level of the subwoofers. And it goes over a really wide range. But usually I had it right at 12 o'clock in the flat position, and sometimes I'd nudge it down a little bit. But almost 90% of the time I was listening to it absolutely flat and getting really good response. Oh, you know what would have been really nice though? Is if they offered a remote control to control the level of the subwoofer from your listening position. That would be fantastic. But it's not. Maybe in the future they'll do something like that. But like I said, almost always I was listening to it absolutely in the flat position. And the other thing is the speaker sits upon a cast aluminum frame. Really nicely done. And you can use either spiked steel feet, or rubber-tipped feet, so if you don't want to mar your floors when you move the speakers around. The warranty runs to 5 years on the speakers and 3 years on the electronics in the speakers. The T66 is available in 2 finishes, and the price for the standard version, the black version I have here, is $6,900 a pair. And the optional, there's a high-gloss red. It's really beautiful in the pictures. That is $7,200 a pair, a $300 upcharge. So I buy-wired the speaker for all of my listening tests, but I was using 2 different sets of cables, a set of AudioQuest cables called Robin Hood, and they were very transparent, very clear, and also Triode Wire Labs, their buy-wire cable, which is a bit sweeter, a little more romantic, a little more beautiful. I don't know. But anyway, a very pretty sound. And I like both. I was switching between them, and I can't say there's a clear winner between those 2 sets of cables. As for the electronics used over the course of this review, it was pretty much the standard reference setup for me, which includes a linear tube audio microzonal preamplifier, a linear tube audio ultralinear power amplifier, Pass Labs XA25, which was actually the main amplifier used over the course of this review, and the ultralinear was used here and there. And I'll talk about that over the course of the review. For digital, it was the reference Mola Mola Tambaki DAC. CD replay was with Jay's CDT2 transport, and I was streaming with a Blue Sound Node 2i. The turntable, I listened to a lot of vinyl over the course of this review. The turntable was a Technics SL1200G with a variety of cartridges, but mostly a Lyra Delos, and the phono preamp was the Parasound JC3 Plus. You know, getting to know this speaker, the thing that jumped out was it sounds like a big speaker. And by that I mean it has weight, it has solidity to the sound, it's dynamically alive without any sense of straining when you play it loud. The soundstage is very open and very tall, by the way. It doesn't seem like it's coming from down there. It feels like it's up here, which I really like. And they just, they disappear. The other thing really important is that these speakers play quiet, late night levels very, very well. And by that I mean that you don't feel like you need to turn it up to get more no, you don't have to do that. You can play them very quietly and feel very satisfied with what you're getting. As for the music, I started with this record just by chance. I just got a copy of this. This is Dominique's new album on vinyl, and it's spectacular. But it's spectacular because it's so sparsely populated. It's almost a cappella at times. There's other instruments, there's some percussion, and there's horns and bass and stuff, but it's really about voice. And the T66 way with reproducing voices was, I'm in. I'm totally in, because it's full, it's real. If there's a human being actually singing, it's not just, from the neck up kind of sound. No, it's all there. And for a recording like this, especially, these speakers really showed what they're made out of, so to speak, that the designers definitely knew the music lives in the mid-range, and I was totally digging it. I'll put it this way. It's like the T66 can transform sound into sensation. And it's like the feel of music comes through. And that is very special. And then there were some really good vibrations coming off this remastered, remixed Radiohead album. And it was the 3D quality of the sound. It just sounded, the soundstage was very layered and deep and spacious, and you just hear into the quieter parts of the music. Again, this speaker does that sort of thing really, really well. And of course, Tom York's vocals, which I remember when I first heard Radiohead, I found his voice annoying. And now I totally get it. He is such an unusual singer. But anyway, yes, again, vocals on the T66, right up there. So all of my impressions up to this point were based on listening with the T66 paired with the Pass Labs XA25 power amp. That's really what I use for almost all the listening tests. But then I switched over to the linear tube audio ultralinear tube power amplifier. It's a output transformerless tube amplifier. And I'm continuing listening to Radiohead, and that spaciousness, that scale, that depth, all of that was enhanced by running to tubes. But it just had this lusciousness that I just love. You just want to sink into the sound. And the LTA does that really, really well. If I had to pick which amp I'd really want to live with, well, I want both. But if I had to choose, I would go with the XA25. But I got to say the ultralinear LTA amp was definitely fine. It was fun. I'm a big fan of US3, or is it US3? Whatever it is, I can't remember. But in any case, I've had their first album on CD for decades, and I play it a lot. But then recently I had this idea, I should buy the LP of this, and I bought the LP, and the LP is definitely better in terms of the life of the music on the record. And there's a lot of sampled stuff from the Blue Note catalog. That was the big draw when the record came out decades ago. But it really holds up as this mishmash of new and classic Blue Note jazz. So I'm playing the LP, and the bass lines coming out of those woofers, those subwoofers on the T66, it was physical. Yes, that's what it was. I was feeling the music, and yet it's not just that they go deep, these subwoofers, but the speed of them, their accuracy, and how well they blend with those 4.5-inch drivers, really, really well done. And it's the icing on the cake is you can tune the bass to taste, meaning how loud you play it with that volume control on the back of the speaker. So if you're the kind of person that likes to really crank the bass, be my guest, turn it up. Or if you find it a little too much at times, turn it down. But like I said, I left it at the flat position for almost all the listening tests. So this speaker's low-end physicality, yeah, that's the word. I can't think of another speaker near its size that can do what this one does, what the T66 does. Now, the only speaker I had on hand that made sense to compare with the T66 was this Pure Audio Project Duet 15, which is my main reference speaker. It's an open baffle speaker, meaning it doesn't have a back. It has a 15-inch woofer and a full range driver. And the price of this speaker, if you bought it like as I have it now, because I made some changes to it along the way, would be about $9,500 or so. So it's kind of in the ballpark, close enough. And they don't sound all that similar. So I'm playing the specials. Somehow this ska band, I was into them back in the day in the 70s, and I sort of forgot about them. I've been playing them a lot, streaming it, and I bought some CDs and stuff. But anyway, I love the music, I love the horns, and it's really great music. And you know what? Yes, the speed of the T66, I kept coming back to it. It's faster, it's more articulate, you hear more of that, and the brass sections, you hear the brass bite, the transient response is better on the T66. But the Duet 15 just opens up more. It's a dipole speaker. There's just as much sound coming out of the back of the speaker as the front. So it just fills the room in a different way. And for that, it sounds like a bigger speaker. And yes, it does have a 15-inch woofer. So the bass isn't as nimble as the bass coming out of the T66, but it's more sumptuous. It's more solid sounding, you know. So they're two very different sounding speakers. They're both really articulate. They both have great rhythm and pace. They both play very quietly, really well. But I would say for some people, having a speaker as wide as the Pure Audio Project, it definitely makes itself known in your room. It might be a bit too much, and the 6-inch wide, at least in the front, T66 is probably easier to place and all that stuff. So anyway, there's that. But anyway, they're doing different things. They both play loud really well. I would give a slight edge to the Pure Audio Project in that category. But anyway, I like them both. And if I had to pick a winner, if you're asking, yes, I would stick with the Pure Audio Project. But the T66 definitely made a very strong and very positive impression on me. I think that was kind of a preview of, so Steve, what do you really think of the GoldenEar T66? You know, my summation would be really that it has just the right balance of truth and beauty about the sound of the recordings that I play. Some go more towards truth or more analytical and clear and transparent and all that. Yeah, does those things really well, but it also balances, the T66 also balances it with just beauty. You just revel in the sound of the music. My listening sessions with the speaker went on and on more than the average because I was just having a good time. There was no listener fatigue, not by me, definitely not. So I just kept wanting more and more from these speakers in terms of, I gotta play this record, I gotta play this record. Oh, by the way, just a quick mention, I'm not gonna go into it too deep, but this Miles Davis album called Quiet Nights, his last collaboration with Gil Evans, I heard that Miles Davis wasn't too crazy about this record, but it's 60 years old. I think it's gorgeous sounding. It's just, you know, it's orchestral, it's big, he's great. I love the record. So I'm going to talk about Quiet Nights more in some other review. But anyway, just a heads up for you Miles Davis fans that might have missed Quiet Nights. But here's what you're not going to miss. The next, coming right up right now, Audiophiliac viewer system of the day. I love these pictures. They come to us from Bjarte. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing your name. I apologize. He lives in Western Norway. He has an NAD 375 BEE DAC, an old, very old, Philips 212 turntable. I had one of those. The phono preamp is a Fosse Audiobook X2. CD player is Rotel RCD 951. Then he has his words, an awful Kenwood GE 7030 equalizer. The subs are two Dolly E12Fs. The line array is a DIY build by Overn Sand in Norway, and it has 12 Dayton Audio PS 95-8 3.5-inch point source full range drivers in each cabinet, and there's a super tweeter on top. And last but not least, a set of Meze 99 classic headphones. Thank you, Bjarte. Okay, we are back. My name is Steve Guttenberg, and I am the Audiophiliac. If you like what I'm doing here on the channel, with viewer systems of the day, and reviews, and interviews with Herb Reichert, and interviews with all sorts of really interesting people, I'd like you to come back and consider joining and supporting my Patreon. The address is on the screen, super easy to do. They accept all currencies pretty much all over the world, and you can jump in for a month or two, then split or stick around, whatever works for you. It's all appreciated at this end. And if you have yet to subscribe to the channel, please do. And if you like a video, really, I keep forgetting to make a big deal about this, but please give me a thumbs up on the ones that you like. It's meaningful to the YouTube algorithm. And speaking of meaningful, it is now time to say thank you again for watching, and I really, really do hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Bye-bye.